Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian. I'm here today at the Rock Island Auction Company taking a look at some of the guns they're going to be selling in their upcoming February of 2017 regional auction. And today we're taking a look at one of, well, probably about the only gun out there that was actually issued with a leather barrel cover. This is an 1862 pattern Sharps and Hankins Navy carbine. Now the Sharps is Christian Sharps, who's really better known by most people for the Sharps rifle, Quigley Down Under, for example. The Sharps rifle was a pretty innovative and pretty popular falling block rifle developed prior to the US Civil War. Was used initially with paper cartridges and then later converted to metallic cartridges. But what's interesting, what I think a lot of people may not realize, is that Christian Sharps, the guy who invented it, actually left the Sharps Rifle Company in 1853. He struck out to do his own independent thing and spent a while building up the works. And in 1860, he hired a guy named Hankins to be his shop superintendent. He'd had some of his financial backers actually kind of leave the company. And in addition to being a pretty talented engineer, originally in woodworking actually, Hankins also brought a good bit of investment capital into the business, so what better combination? Then shortly after that, by 1862, using patents from both Sharps and Hankins, they put together this carbine for sale to the US military, and did actually manage to sell several thousand of them. In total, about 6,300 like this were sold to the US Navy. Then there was also a full-length infantry rifle version. They sold about 500 of those to the Army. And there was also a slightly shorter cavalry carbine. And they sold, I believe, about 14 or 1,500 of those specifically to the New York Volunteer Militia cavalry during the Civil War. So these actually saw a fair amount of use, in particular by the Navy. So a fair amount of issue. How much they were actually fired in anger, and that's maybe a different question. These were chambered for their .52 caliber, and they were chambered for the 56-52 cartridge, interchangeable with that of the Spencer. 56-52 indicates a taper to the cartridge. The bullet was .52 caliber. The case head was .56 caliber. So there were a couple different versions of this Spencer cartridge. There was a 56-56, a 56-52, and a 56-50 as they gradually increased the taper and reduced the bore diameter. But that's a separate issue. These were all .52 caliber. And they have this interesting loading system where you actually pull the lever down and it slides the barrel forward off the receiver. Pretty cool. Why don't we take a closer look at that? So actually, let's start with kind of the elephant in the room here, which is this leather action cover. This was originally put on the gun for naval issues specifically, and it was there to prevent salt water from corroding the outside of the barrel. Now, that sounds kind of stupid, and at this point it has not worked. Underneath the leather, the barrel is of course covered in a fine powdery rust, as are pretty much all of these. However, you can see that it's black leather, and I suspect what happened was when these were initially put on, they were treated with something water repellent. And they probably did work as intended, at least for a while. If you had some water repellent coating on the outside, that would prevent the leather from just soaking up water. And it probably did actually work there. Now, the underside here is fitted specifically to work with this loading lever, unloading lever thing, and these are very often damaged. This one's just hanging on. It's more typical to actually find them with this piece of leather completely come off. And the reason for that is the way this gun works. So when I pull the lever, it's actually going to cam the barrel out away from the receiver. When it does that, it's kind of pushing on that leather cover here. So this is your extraction mechanism, and it gives you a lot of leverage to pry a potentially stuck case out of the chamber. Despite the looks of this particular example, these were very high quality guns when they were manufactured, and they were pretty well liked. So if we look at the back here, we have basically a solid breech face. Nothing back here moves because the barrel goes forward. This is our extractor, and it's spring-loaded. I don't know if you can see it, but I can push it down. I think my finger covers it when I do that. But what would happen is you would put a cartridge in the barrel and then close the barrel down onto the breech face, and the rim of the cartridge would push this spring-loaded extractor down, until it was fully seated in this little recess in the back of the breech face, and then the extractor would pop back up and hold the case in place until you went to pull the barrel off the front after firing, and then you would reach in and pop the case out, the empty case. One cool innovation of Sharps and Hankins was actually to have a floating firing pin. So you can see the firing pin there, and there is not actually a firing pin on the hammer face. Instead, we have the back end of the firing pin right here. That's something that wouldn't catch on for many other designs for quite a long time after this. The Sharps and Hankins carbines also have this sliding safety. This is just a block that slides up into where the hammer is going to be. We'll slide it up there, and then if I drop the hammer, you can see there that the hammer has hit the firing pin block instead of hitting the firing pin itself, thus preventing the gun from firing. However, in a clever little feature, you can automatically disengage the safety just by cocking the hammer. So you can pull the hammer back to here to cock it, but then you can also pull it all the way back, and this pin on the side of the hammer will pull the safety down and disengage it for you, just like that. So that, it's little details like that that really make some of these guns pretty cool. So we have a marking on this side, Sharps patent 1859. And then we also have a marking on the right side, Sharps and Hankins patents. So combination of a couple of different things, some of Christian Sharp's work and then some work also done by Hankins. The rear sight on these guys is adjustable up to 800 meters, or 800 yards actually, and this one's seen better days, but originally this would have been a little sliding catch that would allow you to lock into these various notches to elevate the sight to the proper height. And then the front sight is just sitting on this boss at the front of the barrel. Well, these rifles weren't really sold much after the end of the war. In fact, in 1867, the Sharps and Hankins partnership was dissolved. They sold off all their remaining rifles, and Sharps went back to running just Christian Sharps and Company, the same company that he had been running when he first hired Hankins before they formed the Sharps and Hankins partnership. So ultimately, Sharps would die in 1874 of tuberculosis, and unfortunately, his estate at the time of his death was valued at something like $341. So didn't ultimately make out as a wealthy man despite having his name on one of the iconic Old West guns. But c'est la vie. These are a cool gun. It's unfortunate that this one's kind of in really rough condition, but a very neat concept and a lot of unusual features. If you're interested in owning this one yourself, add it to your own Civil War collection or a Navy rifle collection, or maybe you just have too much .52 caliber Spencer ammunition lying around and you need something to do with it. Well, take a look at the description text below. You'll find a link there to Rock Island's catalog page for this guy. You can check out their pictures and description and estimated price, and if you'd like to place a bid, you can do that right through their website. Thanks for watching.